Hello everyone and welcome back to DERESLEY. In the last couple of weeks since my last railway video, I've been working on the town diorama, and I've also been working at the far end of my layout where the bridge is. It's the scenic break between the layout itself and the fiddle yard, and I'll come back to that a little later in this video. So, progress on the diorama. The main shops are glued finally in position and the wires are through ready for the connection, and I have installed some of the street lamps. I also want a little more detail in the park, so I will need some typical park benches and litter bins. And after a lot of searching, I decided to go with the Metcalfe laser cut card kit. These little kits, and there's 4 in here, and they are park benches, so they should fit perfectly. I'll give you a quick close-up of that. You can see the kind of thing. So they're not going to take too long to make actually, so when I've got them done, hopefully before the next video, they'll be in place. Together with those, I have bought some plastic drinking straws. Now I know I've got loads of these, but I can use them for making pipes and wagon loads and things. But I bought these because they are the scale diameter, and I can cut them to the scale depth to make litter bins. And I'm going to put some litter bins in the park made with these straws. I'm not going to make a bin out of them. I'll just cut them and stick them onto the baseboard. That'll be fine. But I am going to spray them. Not sure what colour yet, but they won't be black. But that'll add, that and the park benches will add a little bit more detail to the park area itself. From the park gates up the slope towards the other end of the diorama, where I was going to have the garage, I'm now rethinking that. I'll show you one of the reasons, and one of the reasons is this fading, which is getting on my nerves a little bit. You know, I've got to remake pretty much all the buildings that I've built in the past for the layout, I think. And you can see what's happened here. If I show you this wall here, which has been positioned so that it catches sunlight on here, and this wall here is in the shade. This wall is in partial sunlight, but this light is catching the sunlight. So if I show you the bit that's in the shade, look at the difference, or the amount of, the extent of the fading between this wall and this wall. It's not quite so bad on this wall because it's been in partial shade. The brick is a little deeper, but it's a lot of the colour has faded out of the doors. And the roof itself is very pinkish in tone and looks sort of a bit washed out. So that's one reason why I'm thinking of dispensing with the garage idea. The other reason is that when viewed from the park gate end of the diorama, looking up the slope, it's a low building, and I rather think, you know, a taller building would look much better in that position. And I'm thinking along the lines of a hotel. Some of my longer standing subscribers will have remembered, hopefully, I took some photographs in my local town of buildings one winter, and one of the buildings I photographed was the Golden Lion Hotel. And I mentioned at the time, I think, that it would make an interesting scratch build, and I'm thinking of scratch building the Golden Lion for my railway. So how am I going to get over the ultraviolet? If I'm going to carry on scratch building, how am I going to get around the ultraviolet problem? Well, what I've done is I have bought some red brick papers. I have bought some of these in the past actually, and a lot of the walling in DERESLEY, you know, the section walling and the walling along the back behind the platform, and even the brickwork on the platform itself was made with these. And when I look at them now, they don't look any different to the day I put them down there. So it seems sensible to remake everything with these. I know I made the base of the water tower last time, and you know, in a couple of years' time I might have to remake that as well, but you know, I'm not too worried about that. So this is quite good because the detail and the colour is nice and strong, perfectly acceptable. There's 8 sheets here of brick paper, a couple of thicknesses, and there's a sheet of roof tiling. So a very useful scratch builder's pack, that. So if I make, of whatever building I make to go at the top end of the diorama, will be made using the Metcalfe brick papers. This is the little building I painted, I made from that series of photographs I took a couple of years back. This was an estate agent's, and it's now Lizzie's Teas and Cakes. Much better use for it, I think. But again, if I show you that side and turn it around, it's starting to show the dreaded weathering signs. But I think I would be able to reuse a lot of this and just replace the brickwork with some of the Metcalfe when I think it really needs it. But at the moment I'm happy with that. And I'm going to, it's not going in the original place I intended it for. It depends now on the design of the hotel and the positioning of that. Now, one of the reasons I was quite keen to put a garage in that place was the garage would give me an opportunity to display some cars, you know, with the rather lovely Oxford die-cast vehicles. It would give me an excuse to display more. I've had a small excuse with the parking, but this would give me more. But I think if I position the hotel correctly, I can have a hotel car park behind the hotel, and I can use that. Anyway, let's leave the diorama now and move on down to the bridge. Now this bridge is the bridge that you see now is the second bridge that I've built for this. The first one was a little short, it wasn't tall enough, and it badly faded. So I built another one from the same kit, and as you can see, it now looks pretty dreadful. And it looks doubly dreadful because at one time I replaced some of the sheeting, the brickwork sheeting, with some fresh brickwork sheeting. So I've got sort of a double fade effect here. One looks okay-ish and the other looks dreadful. So I've decided to pull the bridge out and replace it with bridge number 3. And I'll come back to that later, but bridge number 3 is here, and I've made it, and it's from a Metcalfe kit, and rather splendid it is too. It's actually wider than the scale scenes one, which for me is a help, because beyond the scenic break, which this bridge is, the track bends away quite sharply, and you know, on the scale scenes I had to hack a little bit off the back of this bridge out of view, but nonetheless it was a bit of a fiddle. But I think this will work fine. I've modified the end walls, which are these two here, so that it fits exactly into the gap I've got in my railway. So I've taken out some of the embankment and things, and that's ready to slot in. I haven't replaced the road yet because as I've altered this area quite considerably, then I'm going to rethink the road and what I'm going to do on there. I've got some ideas, but they're not really developed yet. Okay, moving on. The next thing is the signal itself. One of the regrets I've always had with my railway, and it did cross my mind right at my planning stage, was the choice of signals. And I remember semaphore signals in my train spotting days more than I remember coloured light signals. Where we used to spend most of our time train spotting was near a bridge called Benslow Bridge, and to the London side of the bridge there were some lovely semaphore signals and a signal box. And as I'm having the problem with the changing the direction of my travel of my trains on and off to the layout, you know, my up line's going down and my down line's going up, I'm turning that all round, I've had to move the signal at the bridge end, and I thought, as I'm going to pull it all out to make a new bridge, I wouldn't put a semaphore signal at the bridge end. So I'll have a bridge and a signal, which will remind me of those days years and years ago. I know Dapol make a very expensive, or fairly expensive for me, you know, for one signal, what is now become 33, 34, 35 pounds, which is a lot. So what I've done is I've bought a distant signal, and it's the ratio one. These have been around a while, and they're about a third the price of the Dapol ones. Okay, they do work, but they don't have a built-in motor and everything like the Dapol one does. I've got some video now I'm going to show you of the kit and the components and so on. Okay, so here's the finished signal, and it looks really nice and it works. It goes down through the base here, and the bottom bit that was intended to be tied on with a bit of cotton, I'm going to have an actuator, or I'm going to have a rigid rod, and I'm going to operate it with a servo. Okay, a mini servo that I've got on order, I haven't got it yet. And I'm going to operate the signal itself at the control panel end with a servo tester. There's probably a more elegant way of doing it, but that's how I plan to do it at the moment. And by just switching this backwards and forwards, I should be able to, let me get it, raise and lower the signal, because this part of it seems to work pretty soundly. So what I'm going to do is build a box and house this on it so that I can test the whole thing before I put it in place. And then I'm going to cut out to take the whole box on my layout and then sink that in to the baseboard level in the right place. And then it'll have the wires and everything attached. So all I need then to do is tidy them back to the control panel and fix them to the battery and the servo tester. You may have noticed when I held it up that this is painted the yellow and black on that side, and it's the black and white on that side. That's the only bit that requires any paint. But what I've done is I've made a transfer for the black chevron and the yellow board and the black chevron on that side. So a transfer or a decal paper just in the printer and sealed, and that looks, you know, you can get the shape and everything really neat without a lot of masking or fiddling around. So I made the transfer for that myself, so I'm quite pleased with that. Now you also get in the kit a switch or a lever that operates the signal if you use the ratio method of operating it, and the ratio method is the not so elegant little pack of string or nylon, sort of nylon thread, and little eyelets of the kind you put into the back of pictures to hang them on the wall. And that seems a little bit suspect, really, considering the distance between my bridge where I want to sight the signal and my control panel. I would have to make lots of changes of direction and avoid lots of wiring if I did it that way. So I'm going to dispense with that, and as I say, I'm going to operate it with a radio control servo. So I'm looking forward to getting that. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot. That's a little row of some spares. When I make some transfers, I tend to multiply them up so that if I muck one up, then no problem, I've got some more ready to hand. So luckily that went really smoothly. But there is another problem while I'm digging up everything down the bottom end of the layout, is I'm going to make another little diorama. Now I haven't mentioned this before because it's only just occurred to me a sensible way of doing this, and the reason for the diorama is that with my cameras in my hidden fiddle yard, I need light in there. Now that means that the light shines out through the tunnel into the room, and because it's lit up you can see the inside of the cupboard space that I'm using, and there's storage jars and God knows what in there, so it looks a little bit odd. So what I thought would be a good idea was the other side of the scenic area is to make a diorama that covers this, you know, that gives something that blocks the inside of the cupboard and gives a little area of reality to the scenery that's supposed to be beyond the bridge. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this small catch-up, and anything you've seen or heard, please feel free to comment, and please subscribe and like if you're new to my channel. Be most grateful, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.